Darren Cole and his passenger, Mark Reynolds, never imagined that a simple drive home would turn into a nightmare. What began as an ordinary night on quiet streets spiraled into a deadly high-speed chase, secrets unraveling with every turn, and a desperate decision that would cost one of them everything. The night seemed ordinary, the kind where most people stayed inside and the streets looked empty except for the occasional car rolling through town. Streetlights buzzed above cracked sidewalks, and the air held that still, uneasy quiet that comes when the day has settled into darkness. A black sedan cut through the silence, moving faster than the posted limits, gliding past the corner gas station with its headlights off. It didn't matter much at first. Maybe someone had forgotten to switch them on. But when the sedan passed a patrol unit parked on the side of the road, everything changed. The officer pulled out slowly, activating the red and blue lights, expecting nothing more than another routine stop. Drivers forgot their lights all the time. Most encounters ended with a warning, maybe a ticket, and life moved on without much thought. But this time, instead of slowing down, the sedan surged forward, engine screaming as it tore down the two-lane road. Tires squealed, smoke trailed behind, and in seconds, the quiet town transformed into a backdrop for a high-speed chase. The officer radioed in immediately, reporting the pursuit, but the fleeing driver already had the advantage of momentum. Each intersection the sedan crossed was a gamble. Red lights ignored, stop signs meaningless, pedestrians forced to leap back onto sidewalks as the car blurred past. Neighbors who had been winding down for the night stepped onto porches, confused by the sudden roar of engines and sirens echoing across the blocks. Inside the sedan, the driver's grip on the wheel tightened, knuckles pale in the dim glow of the dashboard. Every turn, every reckless decision carried weight he couldn't shake. Behind him, flashing lights bounced off buildings, mirrors, and the glossy black surface of his car. But his mind wasn't fixed on the danger outside. It was on the duffel bag in the back seat. Thick canvas, zipped tight, heavy with its hidden contents. The bag wasn't supposed to be there. It wasn't supposed to draw attention. That night wasn't supposed to happen this way. The officer in pursuit noticed the desperation in the driver's movements. This wasn't the behavior of someone with a suspended license or expired registration. It felt calculated, reckless, but intentional, the kind of driving that spoke of someone running from more than a ticket. Backup was requested. Dispatch confirmed other units were en route, but the fleeing car kept widening the gap, darting into side streets and cutting across lanes without hesitation. The driver seemed to know the roads well, like a predator slipping through familiar territory. Minutes stretched longer than they were, every second a race against fate. By now, radios across the county buzzed with updates, alerting officers in neighboring towns. The pursuit wasn't just about catching a reckless driver anymore. It was about containing the danger before someone innocent got hurt. Patrol cars formed a net, positioning themselves strategically, but the sedan seemed to slip through every gap. The chase grew louder, more frantic. Houses rattled as the vehicles thundered past, dogs barked behind fences, and onlookers recorded shaky videos on their phones, not yet realizing they were witnessing the beginning of something far darker than a traffic stop gone wrong. The chase didn't stay confined to the town for long. As the sedan barreled past the last streetlights, it entered the dark stretches of the county roads, places where streetlights were few and the asphalt twisted like a ribbon through the trees. The patrol car followed, sirens wailing, headlights cutting through the darkness. Within minutes, more units joined in, their engines roaring as they fanned out along potential escape routes. The driver's focus was absolute, hands gripping the wheel so tightly that veins popped along his wrists. Every turn, every swerve was precise, almost instinctive, as if he had memorized these roads in a previous life. Dispatch radioed updates to officers in neighboring towns, warning them of a dangerous suspect fleeing at high speeds. The sedan weaved across lanes, narrowly missing utility poles and mailboxes, the tires kicking up gravel as it took shortcuts that seemed impossible to navigate at such velocity. The pursuit became a test of nerve and skill, with officers forced to anticipate the driver's next move. One wrong calculation, one misjudged turn, and the consequences could be catastrophic. People in the area were waking up to the sound of engines tearing through the quiet countryside. Dogs barked wildly behind fences, and some residents stepped onto porches or peeked through curtains, unsure of what they were witnessing. A few brave souls recorded shaky videos on their phones, capturing the blur of headlights and the echo of sirens cutting through the night. The chase, initially a simple matter of law enforcement stopping a reckless driver, had escalated into something far more dangerous. Inside the sedan, the driver's mind raced faster than the car itself. He wasn't just running from the police, he was running from discovery. The duffel bag in the back seat pressed heavily against the back of his seat, a constant reminder of why this pursuit had begun. Each mile he put between himself and the patrol units was a small victory, but also a risk. The faster he went, the greater the danger. He knew the roads could betray him at any moment, a hidden ditch, a sudden curve, a patch of gravel too loose for control. Yet stopping was not an option. The thought of being caught with the bag, of exposing what he carried, fueled his desperate maneuvers. As the chase stretched across county lines, the terrain became more challenging. Narrow bridges over dark rivers, overgrown back roads, and the occasional abandoned farmhouse created obstacles the driver barely navigated. The patrol units adjusted their strategy, keeping a safe distance to avoid collisions while trying to box him in. Helicopters were unavailable that night, leaving the ground units to manage with limited visibility and high stakes. Every moment felt like a countdown to disaster. The chase revealed a strange duality in the driver. His skill behind the wheel showed experience and confidence, yet panic lurked beneath the surface. Small mistakes, barely perceptible swerves, slight overcorrections hinted at a mind fraying under pressure. The pursuing officers sensed it too, recognizing that one misstep could end everything violently. The quiet night had turned into a tense theater of speed, danger, and desperation, and no one could predict how it would conclude. By the time the chase had moved deep into rural territory, it was clear this was no ordinary flight. The sedan had become a symbol of everything at stake, a blur carrying secrets that could unravel lives. Every turn brought them closer to an inevitable end, and with the county lines behind them, there was no going back. The only certainty was that the next moments would decide the fate of everyone involved. As investigators later unraveled the events of that fateful night, Darren Cole's life began to reveal its hidden layers. On the surface, he was an ordinary man, 32 years old, working at a local warehouse, living a life that, on paper, appeared uneventful. His neighbors remembered him as polite and quiet, the kind of person who kept to himself and avoided unnecessary attention. There were no past arrests, no public altercations, nothing that would have raised red flags in a routine background check. To the outside world, Darren's sudden flight from the police made no sense, but beneath that ordinary facade was a secret life carefully concealed. Months before the chase, Darren had become entangled with a small-time drug ring operating just beyond the city limits. Initially, his involvement had seemed harmless, running small errands, delivering packages, and occasionally acting as a courier for unknown items. Over time, however, his tasks became riskier, and the value of what he transported increased. Darren had no illusions about the dangers, yet he rationalized his actions, believing he could navigate this double life without consequence. The duffel bag in the back seat that night contained the physical proof of this hidden world, thousands of dollars worth of narcotics that could destroy anyone caught in possession. As the chase unfolded, Darren's mind was a whirlwind of fear and calculation. Each turn he took, each shortcut he executed, was driven not only by the instinct to escape law enforcement, but also by the desperate need to protect the secret he had carried for months. The stakes had grown far higher than anyone, including himself, had imagined. This was no longer a simple act of evasion. It was a fight for survival, an attempt to outrun exposure and the consequences of the life he had tried to hide. Investigators later pieced together how deeply Darren had been ensnared. The drug operation he served was not enormous, but it was organized and careful, aware of law enforcement's presence in the area. Darren A.S.'s role as a courier had put him at the center of a network of secrecy and fear. He had been under quiet suspicion from the ring's leaders, who feared betrayal. Their silent scrutiny, combined with the growing paranoia Darren felt, created a pressure cooker of tension that exploded the moment he saw flashing lights in his rearview mirror. The duffel bag in the back seat symbolized everything Darren had tried to keep hidden. Its weight was both literal and metaphorical, a constant reminder of choices he could not undo. As the chase continued, it became evident that he was not merely fleeing the police. He was running from a culmination of months of secrecy, fear, and mounting tension. Each maneuver on the winding roads reflected not just desperation but also experience. He knew the area well, understanding which roads could provide temporary advantage, which paths could lead to disaster. By the time authorities began to trace his movements, they saw a man driven by fear, skill, and an overwhelming sense of urgency. Darren's life, seemingly ordinary and routine, had intersected with a world of danger in a single moment of decision. The choices he made that night were the result of hidden pressures, unseen threats, and a network of criminal connections that ultimately shaped the tragic outcome. The deeper investigators looked, the clearer it became that the chase was the inevitable result of a life lived in secret, a web of decisions and missteps that could no longer be contained. The night stretched on as the chase continued through the countryside, the sedan's headlights cutting narrow beams through the darkness while the pursuing patrol units struggled to maintain a safe distance. The roads had become treacherous, narrow lanes bordered by dense woods, overgrown fields, and hidden ditches that could easily swallow a car that strayed too far. Every turn was sharper than the last, every curve more unpredictable. The driver's desperation had reached a peak, his focus absolute, yet each maneuver carried the ever-present risk of disaster. As the chase approached an old, seldom-used bridge, the tension among the officers escalated. The bridge's surface was slick with moisture from a recent rainfall, its rails rusted and weakened over the years. The patrol units slowed slightly, wary of the hazard, while Darren pressed forward, unwilling to give ground. His knowledge of the area had been an advantage, but familiarity was no guarantee of safety. The sedan skidded across loose gravel at the curve leading onto the bridge, tires struggling for traction. He overcorrected slightly, the car fishtailing as the edge of the guardrail caught the side of the vehicle. Sparks flew, and for a heart-stopping moment, it seemed the sedan might hold. But the miscalculation proved fatal. The car spun violently, flipping twice before slamming into the shallow ditch that ran alongside the bridge. The impact tore the vehicle apart, scattering metal glass and the duffel bag across the embankment. Officers arrived within seconds, hearts pounding at the sight. Silence replaced the roar of engines, the urgency of pursuit giving way to the grim reality of the crash. Darren lay motionless inside the wreckage, the chaotic scene bearing witness to the deadly consequences of one desperate decision. The duffel bag, once hidden and heavy with secrets, now lay open among the debris. Its contents spilled across the grass, immediately revealing the nature of Darren's hidden life. Drugs, carefully packaged and clearly valuable, offered a stark explanation for the intensity of his flight. What had begun as a routine traffic stop had escalated into a fatal confrontation, exposing not only the man's desperation, but also the wider criminal activity he had been involved in. Investigators could see clearly now why Darren had risked everything. He had been running not just from the police, but from discovery, from the consequences of a life he had tried to conceal. As authorities documented the scene, the magnitude of the chase's consequences became painfully apparent. The physical destruction of the vehicle mirrored the unraveling of Darren's secret life, a sudden and violent revelation of a hidden world that had been operating quietly beneath the surface. The officers who had pursued him were left with a mix of relief and sorrow, knowing that the chase had ended, but at a cost that could not be reversed. The aftermath also revealed the fragility of human decisions under extreme pressure. Every turn, every risky maneuver, every second of hesitation had contributed to the outcome. Darren's life, once ordinary on the surface, had collided with danger in a single night, leaving behind a stark reminder of the risks inherent in fleeing law enforcement. In that rural stretch of road, beneath the shadowed trees and the broken asphalt, the consequences of fear and secrecy became tragically real, marking the end of a chase that had spiraled far beyond anyone's expectations. In the hours and days following the crash, the full scope of Darren Cole's actions began to emerge. Authorities combed through the scene, carefully collecting evidence from the wreckage and the surrounding area. The duffel bag, now open and emptied onto the damp grass, became the centerpiece of the investigation. Its contents confirmed what police had suspected during the chase. Darren had been carrying a significant quantity of narcotics, a discovery that immediately connected him to a larger criminal network operating just beyond the city limits. What had seemed like an isolated incident, a man fleeing a traffic stop, suddenly became the starting point of a much deeper investigation. As law enforcement traced Darren's connections, it became evident that he was not acting alone. The small-time drug ring he had been involved with was careful, organized, and accustomed to operating under the radar. Darren's role had been that of a courier, moving illicit goods between points without drawing attention. His sudden panic and the chaotic high-speed chase had exposed the operation to scrutiny in ways the leaders had never anticipated. Within weeks, coordinated raids led to arrests, seizures, and the dismantling of the network. Investigators later revealed that Darren had been under suspicion by the ring's leaders, who feared betrayal or cooperation with authorities. The fear that had driven him to flee was not imaginary. It was rooted in the very real dangers of being caught in a criminal web. For the community, the story became a cautionary tale about the unpredictability of human behavior under pressure. Darren had appeared ordinary, a man without a criminal record living a quiet life. Yet in a single night, a series of decisions, reckless, desperate, and ultimately fatal, had revealed the hidden dimensions of his life. Families, neighbors, and even the officers involved were left grappling with the reality that one choice, made in fear, could set off a chain of events with irreversible consequences. The high-speed chase, the crash, and the exposure of the criminal network served as a stark reminder of how quickly ordinary circumstances could spiral into tragedy. The investigation also highlighted the dangers inherent in fleeing law enforcement. Each maneuver Darren had made in those final moments had been calculated for survival, yet the inherent risk of such actions proved catastrophic. Officers involved in the pursuit reflected on the delicate balance of maintaining public safety while attempting to apprehend a desperate suspect. The incident became a case study in high-speed pursuits, illustrating how fear, secrecy, and poor judgment could collide with deadly results. Ultimately, Darren's story ended in tragedy, but the aftermath left a lasting impact on those who studied it. It shed light on the hidden lives some individuals lead, the pressures that can drive a person to extreme measures, and the ways in which law enforcement must navigate complex, dangerous situations. The community learned that beneath the ordinary, there can be extraordinary secrets, and that choices made in moments of fear can unravel everything in a heartbeat. Darren Cole's flight from the law serves as a haunting reminder that one desperate decision can change lives, expose hidden truths, and leave a mark that endures long after the chase has ended. The lessons of that night extended far beyond the crash site. They spoke to human nature, to the consequences of hidden lives, and to the unpredictable outcomes of choices made under pressure. What began as a simple traffic stop ended as a fatal event that reshaped lives, exposed criminal activity, and left a community reflecting on the fragile line between routine and catastrophe.